hilling. Much as you do with sweet corn, you should continue to hill up round vulnerable plants. This will keep any moisture in, and the more you protect the roots or the stems, the better. So much as you do here, as soon as you feel there's going to be a drought, start hilling up round your plants. You can use compost, anything that hasn't broken down yet in your compost, dried leaves, cut grass, straw, hay, anything and everything. You can see I've gathered dry leaves here. Anything you can use just to go round and hill up every plant, going up the stem as far as possible. Any of your growing areas full of anything you can find. This will protect any soil or compost underneath, keeping the moisture in. So just pick up anything you can. Shred some old paper, twigs, anything. You may think it's a good idea to just plant everything in one big bed, and in that way you only need to put all the water in one bed and save everything. This is not a good idea for several reasons, one of which is the fact that some plants will take the water from other types of plant, so do know what plants will drain the water more than others. Also, therefore, you might think, well, that's okay as long as I plant all the same types of plant together in one bed. But as you can see here, that also is not a good idea if your plants are of different sizes, because here you can see the smaller plants have not got the water and have turned a light green because the bigger plants are much stronger and have taken all the water away. So do know your plants and know which plants you can plant together that won't draw the water, and do not plant small plants in with big plants even when they're of the same type. And remember, here I'm talking about when we have a shortage of water and don't have much water to water our plants and our beds. Sometimes when you think you've lost plants, don't pull them up. Just use secateurs to cut them back. Many plants revive themselves. You will find a lot of them, if you grow them well, particularly in good compost, homemade, or straw and hay, or Hugelkultur, they will regrow. So what you might think here, for example, is a dead plant. Actually, from the side, starts to regrow. So cut things back, because you don't need the water going right up here. So cut back to just before where you see a stem shooting off that is greening. So don't think all is lost when you feel your plants are beginning to die. Not emphasize enough, the best way to grow in these circumstances and to prep for these circumstances is to grow Hugelkultur method. I've linked many videos below showing you how I build my Hugelkultur beds. Also, you can use this method in growing in tyres, or starting plants off, starting seeds off, growing in bottles, which is another good method to start seeds, and you need little water to germinate the seeds. You can use Hugelkultur method in raised beds. And don't use the bought metal raised beds that you can now buy for a lot of money, when you can make them your own and they don't take so much water. You don't want a huge depth for growing as long as you use Hugelkultur method to grow. To keep things growing, just keep adding more and more stuff on top, like cut grass, twigs, dried leaves. Drought suddenly comes, or lack of water, or your water switched off, whatever your reason, or you suddenly have a dry, arid season, you are already prepared. Prevention and preparation. Know what might get troubled by the sun, the heat and the dry conditions. So know what needs to be grown in the shade. Research your plants, your climate and your soil. I protect my plants with salvaged net curtains, which also provides good shade. You don't need to buy shade cloth, just go and see what you can find in charity shops, garage sales, salvage from dumps or from friends, and use what you can to prepare. You can also protect your plants with your plants. Once you feel you're going to have water situations, get planting out everything you can and use the plants you already have to protect your smaller plants. Again, do be aware of what can grow with what. I have videos on companion planting, so do take a look at those too. Take cuttings from everything you can if you're fearful of losing particularly trees, herbs and special plants. Everything under cover out of the main heat of the day. I grow a lot of my seeds in cat food bags. This means they don't need much water. The plastic holds the water and the moisture. So in a drought, you would be better off having lots of seeds in these sort of containers or growing areas, and then you will have a lot growing in just one small bag. As you don't need so much water for these, this will keep these alive longer. As I've said and linked a video of, I grow in water bottles. You can quickly, as soon as you think there's going to be a drought, start seeds, which might sound absolutely crazy if you have no water. But again, if you put the lids on these bottles, they will start the seeds germinating with no water. These are something you then would put in the sun until you see the starts of the seeds. Prioritise. What food is most important to you? Is it better to grow big vegetables such as zucchinis, as they will make whole meals, but they also may need more water than smaller things such as radish and beetroot? Think about if you could only grow 2 or 3 vegetables, what would those vegetables be? And that is the way you can decide what seeds or plants to prioritise saving in these situations. I said before, you want to grow in straw or hay. They do not need as much water. If you suddenly have drought or lack of water, cover as much of each plant as you can with the straw or the hay or your cut grass. The only time to not do this is if you have brand new seedlings coming through. By covering those brand new seedlings, if you see the greens of those, you will kill them. But you can cover over seeds before they show any green, and that will encourage them not to come out the top for a longer period of time. Therefore, keeping them growing underneath your soil longer. For example, we have very young seeds coming through. If I was to cover those with straw or hay, they would die. But if there was an area, say here, where there's no seeds coming through yet, if I was to know there were seeds there about to come through, I can cover with more straw or hay before I can see them, and then they would take longer to come through because they now have a deeper area to come through. And then the plants that are already growing and doing well, as I've said before, you need to hill up around them as high as you can. You might not have areas where you can get straw or hay, or if you can't afford to buy it, which I never buy anything, but there will be plenty of people out there who will have pet straw or hay they are throwing away, or you can go and even offer to cut your neighbour's grass and rake up their leaves, and this will all be like gold to you. Many things will be lost. You have to make the decisions if you want to lose your younger plants or your older plants. This old tree was getting very old in its years, and it probably wouldn't have lasted much more now. So that means there was no point watering this tree when I have so many new things growing. In extreme heat conditions, it's best to get things out of these type of pots, get them planted somewhere else, unless of course they're so small that they won't take elsewhere. Never grow in terracotta pots if you have droughts or extreme temperatures. Surely it goes without saying, get yourself containers, and when you have rain, store the water from your gutters, your roofs, off of any outbuildings. People often forget the water running off of those. Store the water you do have from nature, and of course your washing up water, shower water, bath water, and so on and so forth. Sure, any drains from your house, your washing machine and anywhere else runs directly into growing areas. Depending of course where you live, if it's possible, see if you can get a borehole dug to find water deep on the land around you, or indeed a well. But do look into, if you're going to try and make some water retention site, things such as a big lake or pond, and putting a liner in will not store the water. Let me tell you, our swimming pool with a liner will lose so much water on a daily basis. It needs to be halfway over these filter areas in order to run the pump to keep the water moving so it doesn't green up. So if you're going to just dig a lake or a pond and put a liner in it, it needs to move to stop it going green, so you will need a pump and filters in it, or else your water will become quite smelly and that water will evaporate fast on a daily basis. We have a covered water irrigation tank that, because we use the water on a daily basis to water our land, it is constantly flowing. So do cover any areas where you are using water. Apart from stopping it evaporate, it will also stop mosquitoes. So these are just a few very basic ideas. I have a lot more. If you have any suggestions as well that I haven't covered today in this video, then please add them in the comments below. and tell me what you would prioritise in your garden if you couldn't keep everything. Are new seeds and new food more important? For us, the situation was we were hoping one day to get our water back, and therefore I thought if I started new seeds, then at least they would be able to grow and replace any old seeds I'd lost. That way I wouldn't have been without food for too long. Also consider then to grow foods that are fast to grow. So if you're relying on the food you're growing from seeds, then you won't go hungry. At least you have something. So as things die, you need to see if there's anything that can be saved, if there's anything you could actually harvest. If not, put it in your compost area and hopefully you might get some seeds from that. If not, you will get compost. Some things will automatically go to seed if they don't receive water. Again, like this basil, I've just put it in a large raised bed so the seeds will naturally drop and I will get new basil plants. A lot of stuff will go to seed, they will bolt, then try and harvest the seeds from it. So like this rocket plant, I'm now collecting as many seeds as possible from the seed pods and saving the seeds until I can grow again. So don't mourn everything you have lost, celebrate all that you have saved.